There are a lot of great news for Tesla, specifically in China. There's a report that Elon Musk is expected to visit China again. Is this, as some are saying, to negotiate the FSD supervised launch? In the meantime, there are a number of good signs for sales of Tesla vehicles. First, the market share for gas and diesel cars are collapsing in China, now down over 50% in less than 5 years. Second, Tesla's Model 3 is seeing longer wait times, now at 4 to 6 weeks, and sales for the first week in September hit its highest weekly registrations at likely 6,400 units. We're almost certainly on track for Tesla to deliver an all-new all-time high sales year. Third, we'll watch a video of the difference between a Chinese-made car and the Tesla Model 3. It's a real mess in many of these cars. And finally, Tesla has announced they're doubling the amount of destination chargers. This comes after Elon Musk has said they're opening a lot more superchargers. Joining us today is Brian White. He's a host of his own YouTube channel called FutureAza. Thank you so much, Brian.
What a busy week for the news. Oh my gosh, we're going to have trouble getting through it, but let's try.
Lots of new data points, which is always fantastic for us to follow what's actually happening in China. So the first one is, this is a report in China that apparently Elon is expected to visit China once again. We don't know why he's going to go there. Alex Voigt said, he thinks it's likely because he's going to negotiate the FSD supervised launch. What do you think, Brian?
What else could it be? I mean, it could be a bunch of things. He could be going to check out the new Megapack factory, the Megapactory. He could be there to just see how the 3-in-Y assembly is going. But really, his time is very limited. That's a very long flight. He doesn't go there just for fun. So this would be a logical next step. And we've seen FSD is on the horizon, both in China and in Europe. There's regulatory moves there as well. This is huge, and it could mean a lot in terms of recognizing additional revenue, as well as opening up revenue streams for subscriptions.
Do you think that the timing of, this week of September, and of course, October 10th is coming out for the Robotaxi event. Is there any kind of connection to that at all? Or, just going there because it's time to visit China?
I think it's a very good question. It would make sense if we're going to see something big on 10/10. It could be that they want it to be able to roll out in China at the same time. And if you want to roll it out in China on or about 10/10, you need to get over there right now to have that conversation. So I think that's... we're reading into the tea leaves a bit, but the tea leaves seem to be spelling it out.
Love it. Exactly. Okay, so lots of new information that's happening in China that is quite exciting for Tesla. The first one here is some new data points saying that the market share for gas and diesel cars are collapsing. Market share is down over 50% in the last 5 years. This is wreaking havoc on China's gas and diesel car supply chain. As you can imagine, when you're enjoying a certain market share, you got your supply chain humming. As it falls, they're going to stop making as many of these parts, and eventually, right? They can't. You can't get what you want at the right price, and things just escalates. This is from AJ at ALOJOH, and he showed this table here that from 2019 to 2024, you can see that the drop of the vehicle market share is pretty significant. Monthly percentage of ICE cars is now down
by half. And the thing is, there's the economies of scale work in both ways. You have a virtuous cycle when you get more and more batteries or controllers or BMSs, whatever it is you need. But the vicious cycle is on the other side, waiting for those gas cars. And like you said, we're going to reach a point where the economies of scale don't make sense. If the mold breaks from which they cast the little 4-cylinder engine, is it cost effective to make a new cast? Probably, but they're going to have to. They won't be able to divide it by as many units that it can eventually produce before it goes entirely out of production. So it is already starting to hit them, and it'll be hitting them more and more.
Yeah. So we reported about 2 or 3 weeks ago, right, that in China, the sales of new electric vehicles, which includes the battery electric vehicles and the hybrids, have surpassed the gas cars.
Yes, the plug-in hybrids, not just the mild hybrids, but the caliente ones.
So they surpassed that already. The question is that an expense of Tesla? Is Tesla failing? And apparently not. So currently today, every single month we follow it, you'll see here that Tesla sales are increasing. And Elon himself just said very recently the Tesla Giga Shanghai is at maximum capacity. And you can see here, we were all wondering whether or not the Model 3, the new revised Model 3 was going to be successful. And it's looking like it's finally showing up in the big numbers. Tesla Model 3 sees longer wait times in China, and domestic sales are increasing as well. So consumers in China's domestic auto are starting to favor the re-engineered Tesla Model 3. You can see this in both the first week of the Q3 numbers, as well as the increased wait times. So last week, we saw that 16,200 vehicle registrations ending September 8th, of which Model 3 is 6,400 of those. And then if you look at the wait times, it's increased now to 4 to 6 weeks. And this is true for the base Model 3, the long range, all-wheel drive, and the top-tier Model 3 performance. All of them are now 4 to 6 weeks. Tesla Chan does a great job of giving us the update. And this is what he said. Most leading vehicle, the Chinese are noticing that the Model 3 is the most leading vehicle in the industry. He follows the weekly numbers. I'm not going to go through this because that's basically, we just reported what it was last week, and you can see how it compares to the previous weeks, but it's right up there to the top of the best weeks out there. And so you can see now it says 4 to 6 weeks here, as if you want to order something. It used to be 3 to 5 weeks. That's what it was recently. So what do you think's happening there, Brian?
Well, it's pretty clear what's happening there. The demand is up. These are being exported to more markets. It could be that there's a big push to get a bunch into Canada before the new tariffs hit, but it would be a very small number in terms of real numbers. You know better than anyone. It's an amazing car. It's really well put together. People love the original Model 3, but the new Model 3 is that much better. And nothing sells a Tesla like butts in seats. And as the word gets out, this car is going to continue to be a good seller, and it's only going to grow from there.
Yeah, it's a fantastic car. And again, Tesla Chan does a great job tracking the expected delivery date trends. And you can see here that in September 10th, it's now jumped to 4 to 6 weeks. You have to wait 4 to 6 weeks if you order a car, but you can see how when it started in July, it was 1 to 6 weeks, 1 to 4 weeks, 2 to 4 weeks, 3 to 5 weeks, and now it's 4 to 6 weeks. So you can see how it just progressively started to appear, to get better.
Yes, and it's not the outside number we're looking at. The outside number always factors in shipping logistics. It's the inside number, the shortest number. What they're saying is unless there happens to be one in inventory that someone couldn't take delivery of, you are looking at 4 weeks.
So one of the numbers we've been watching closely is every single week, every month, we're watching how many sales of Tesla in China. And we had a pretty rough first half of the year and certainly had a tough last year. But it's looking like we've caught up and things are looking really good here. You got AJ again saying Tesla did it. Year to date, 2024 finally is exceeding last year, just a little bit, but it's happening. So sales last week came in strong at 16,400 cars. The year to date now is 409,000. And normally Q3 and Q4 is much, much higher than first 2 quarters. So like these guys are probably going to break 1 million for sure. Tesla's 2024 sales are now ahead of 2023's 408,000 sales. So here we go. The red has always been kind of a little bit behind, and now we're popping back up. What's your expectations? So what you're expecting?
So the factory is at max capacity. Elon already said that, and we believe that to be true. There's always going to be some wiggle room around the margins. I always expect a fully ramped factory to improve by 2 to 4% year over year, just because that's how Tesla does it. They can always get some more efficiency. So what I think we're going to see is, people have said, well, why is Tesla so flat this year? Well, we could have told you last year that was coming because, there's no new factories being built. There's no new factories coming out. I expect to see this year beat last year, in part because the economy is very much like last year. Demand is an awful lot like last year, but there's also the Cybertruck now. So even just putting the Cybertruck on top of last year's numbers, you'd get a slightly better year. There is some underutilization in Berlin and Texas, but those are being addressed. And because they're both Model Y factories, primarily, or entirely, that means that a lot of it comes down to market demand. When you're already number one, your room to grow is a bit limited. So there's going to be some challenges there. But if you live in a place like Colorado, it's shocking how cheap a new Tesla can be. Model Ys, if you with enough stacked incentives, is getting down to $30,000. That is a heck of a bargain.
One way to take a look at the progress over time, is it improving in China? So look at the trailing 12 weeks. So this is again AJ. The trailing 12-week sales rate keeps rising, reached over 160,000, approaching all-time highs. So if you look at the Tesla China vehicle registration, if you want to look at it by trailing 12 weeks, you can see how, how's it happening? I guess 12 weeks is a good idea. That's like a quarter, right? How's it doing? And you see the unavailability of Model 3 because of the refresh. Of course, it crashed. The Lunar New Year, it crashed. We're here. So if you look at since 2022, we're approaching all-time highs again. So that's the point, is to get back up to where we were, right?
Exactly right.
So HA thinks that it's almost certain Tesla will deliver for 2024 a new all-time high sales year. Strong performance, the fact that traditionally Q3, Q4 are the strongest for Chinese vehicle sales. Chinese auto market is shrinking, but significant growth in electric vehicle sales keeps growing the pie relevant for Tesla, the EV market. What's your expectation for the end of year sales for Tesla?
In the about 2 million range is what I'm expecting. Just a little bit better than last year. We've seen a lot of expectations from the extremes of the spectrum thinking, it's, people who were even a few months ago still saying 2.5, 3 million. And then people saying, no, it's dead. It's over. It's going to be 1 million. No, the company's still growing. I think what we're seeing, the reason there's no new factories is because there's a pivot coming in a month and we can't see it yet. On 10/10, we're going to learn something new that's going to reshape our expectations. And I think discussion of volume of sales of vehicles that humans drive may seem quaint to us in even a few months' time, but definitely in a few years' time. So it's one of those things where a lot of people care about this topic, which is why we have to discuss it, but we may be having the wrong discussion and we'll know better in 29 days.
Thank you for that reminder. That's a really good point. If this 10/10 event and then Elon going to China, maybe making sure that the Chinese market is aware of the capabilities of FSD, robotaxi, getting FSD supervised there, then this changes the game a lot more, because people will choose Teslas not because it's better cars, better price, but also more features like robotaxi or FSD. And the Model 3 has been revised. It's a fantastic car. And then everybody's going, don't you know that the Chinese are coming? And they are. There's no doubt that they're selling well, they're priced lower. But if you open up under the hood, they look great on the outside. If you look at the under the hood, you'll see a lot of problems. Here's a good example. Ray for Tesla shared this. What's the difference between Xiaopeng's P7, and Xiaopeng's known for really good cars, and Model 3 under the hood? Saw all kinds of messy pipes under the Mach-E, and now under Xiaopeng P7. It's reasonable to assume all non-Tesla EVs share the same trait: lack of integration of components, simplicity of design, and advanced electronic control units. Let's watch this little video here and see what we see. Turn off his volume. Basically, he's opening it up. I've seen this guy do it. Such a great job. Look at the difference.
So that's clean and tidy. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
And yeah, the other one was what I expect to see under the hood of a gas car. That kind of mess. Oh, look at the difference. And I'm concerned that the Xiaopeng might have, those look like electrolytic capacitors, the little tube cylinder things. And if those are a service item that have to be drained and recharged every 10 years. I hope it's not that.
Yeah, so this is the Tesla Model 3 right there.
What a difference.
And that is the Xiaopeng.
Oof. Well, once you put the cover on, boy, that is a mess. And if you look under the front liner of a F-150 Lightning, it's the same thing. It is a mess. It is a disaster. It is poorly poorly organized. And you could, well, it doesn't matter what it looks like underneath. It matters how it drives. They're connected. The two things are connected. Simplicity is just better. It allows you to understand the flow better. It allows easier passage of your cooling fluids, of everything. A simple design is the target. And I assume all of these companies will get there eventually. But in the meantime, what a pain, what a hassle, what an expense.
Would you agree then? So what's happening, of course, is Tesla's selling Model 3s, Model Ys at the premium price point, much more expensive than all the other Chinese car companies. There's Zeekr that's competing with Tesla out there. And but few BYD cars are actually at the high premium. So right now, people are not saying, yeah, they're cheaper cars. These Tesla, the Chinese cars are cheaper. I'm going to buy that because I need that segment, that particular car, that, that kind of car at that price point. But when Tesla releases the lower, more affordable cars, and they have this integration of supply chain, that's when you're going to start going more head to head with a Tesla lower, more affordable car. And they can do it because of how much they save in building these cars the way they do it versus the other guys who are just stuffing things in and doubling up in parts and so forth. So that's maybe when we'll start seeing the difference, right?
Well, and that's the big thing is if you take these two cars, they're priced the same. They do not cost the same to build. Tesla's very good about getting 2-3 uses out of everything instead of one. Every purpose requires a whole special part. You look at things like the air compressor being used as a cross member in the Model S and X, and now we're seeing other manufacturers copy that. And people like John from Autoline are look at it and go, "What a revolutionary breakthrough, my friend! This came out years ago on Tesla." And if you look at a company like Lucid or Rivian and see how much they're losing per vehicle, and say, "Well, you know what? If Tesla decided they were going to lose that much on every car they sold, the cars would be free and there'd be a check in the glove box." So it's hard to compare companies when one of them is actually making money and the others are just dreaming.
Right. So that's the part, right? These Chinese automakers, they have market share, but they're not making any money. The profit is minimal and negative. They still haven't figured it out. So the question is, how fast can the Chinese automakers copy Tesla's manufacturing capability so that they can take that under the hood and make it the same as Tesla is?
Yeah.
Versus Tesla, we just talked about at the beginning of this show that the brand is so high. People are buying these Teslas. They want the Teslas despite the price point. But when they bring the price down, they'll take that brand kind of halo, knowing that they're great cars, and they can still make money because they're able to build the cars at the price point, lower price point, but with margin. You know what I mean? Like, so when Tesla gets down there, can they get down there and have margin and quality, lower price point versus before the Chinese can copy Tesla's? That's what it took a long way for me to say it.
I'm with you. I'm with you. So if you look at those Chinese cars and the Ford and all the other cars that have all those visible inefficiencies, you can see that their path to getting more efficient is clear. They know how to do it. They know what the problem is. It's just that getting there is difficult and expensive, but they will get there. And I think the Chinese brands, we're going to see Tesla levels of simplification within 2-3 years at the beginning, and definitely all of them by, I would guess, 5 years for sure. But what does Tesla have that's going to bring their costs down significantly during that time? We don't know. I mean, there's not much room left to improve. They can use castings on more vehicles. That will help. That will shorten the lines. That will improve the time to build, which costs money. So that's good. But the reality is those other companies are, when they improve those efficiencies, what they'd be wise to do is not lower their price, but actually start to make some money, actually keep some of those dollars for themselves, which means if Tesla keeps lowering prices, it's going to just make it that much more difficult for the other guys. Yeah. And Tesla doesn't really need to lower prices. And as FSD comes around, it means that Tesla will now have a new revenue stream on top of it where they could sell the cars for free and just make the money on the back end. Yeah. Go ahead.
A new differentiator, a new value proposition.
I have test driven so many cars, so many wonderful EVs, so many fantastic daily drivers, but I won't buy one because I don't want to drive my car, let alone daily. Driving cars is for the birds, man. That's old stuff.
They fly, dude.
Well,
They don't
and
have cars.
I have to, I do so many of these road trips. I couldn't do them if I had to hold the wheel and be in charge every microsecond. It's crazy. So this is the differentiating factor is opening up. And until these other brands get something better than just a basic ADAS system with an assisted driver, advanced driver assistance, they're not going to be in the same class.
Yeah. I was talking to Jeff Lutz, who's an expert in manufacturing and doing global release of products. And he said it's true that China does do this typical cycle where they will invite a leader in a certain product into their market, allow them to be, to sell into their market. In the meantime, they're of course learning and they're copying the technology. And then eventually they take that knowledge and then they're able to then, kind of like maybe even displace that original OEM that came in there. However, the difference between Tesla and, the previous examples is that Tesla is always innovating. So if you feel comfortable that you can always get to that next step, then the Chinese will keep copying and you're okay with it because you're just always innovating yourself. So this is what we're expecting to see. We'll follow that. The next news here is Tesla Charging announced that they're going to double the annual openings of the destination chargers network. This comes right after, a couple of days ago, Elon said, we're opening a lot more superchargers. What regions are we missing? So destination chargers are the ones that are in hotels and so forth. And I'm telling you that we haven't seen anything yet. People always complain about, charging networks. We're done. We're at the point now where as soon as the market share has hit 5% or 10%, like in the US, we're now at 10%. In China, it's well over 50%. At that point, every hotel, every restaurant, every parking spot, parking lot, every apartment, they need to service the 10%, 20% of people that come there to be able to charge. So these destination chargers, it's going to be everywhere. And if you add the destination chargers to the superchargers, we're actually already more than gas stations.
Right.
And if you consider that your home is a destination charger, because you can plug it in, I don't know how many people don't realize you can plug in your electric vehicle to a standard outlet where you plug your lamp in. People don't know this, but you can. So anyways, what's your thoughts on this?
Destination chargers are great. Definitely need more of those. I know a lot of people who will only stay at a hotel that has one. And a lot of other hotels don't realize that they need them because it hasn't occurred to them yet. It'll be the same kind of shift we saw with Wi-Fi. Hotels for a long time were difficult about Wi-Fi because it's one more thing we have to think about. Well, with this, if you get Tesla superchargers, you really don't, destination chargers, you really don't have to think about it after they're installed. It just works. So then, yeah. And in terms of the 110 sockets, people don't get it. You can charge. You can get by pretty darn well on a standard wall socket. I did it for 8 months. The only time it would be an issue is if I had to drive hundreds of miles on back-to-back days. It's, well, yeah, but I go on trips. Right. Okay, then you're not at home at all, so it doesn't matter. Unless you're bringing your own level 2s. I mean, that's not a thing. So yeah, it's the average driver only does something like 20, 30 miles a day, and 20 miles a day. You would never have a problem. You would never need it. It's pretty rare. And then you just go to a supercharger and top up.
Thank you so much, Brian. Appreciate you. Follow him on his YouTube channel, FutureAza. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye. I've created a website that is the most comprehensive resource for the Tesla investor. Please check it out. Simply go to my website at herbertong.com.